Hey guys, tonight we're diving headfirst into a story so wild, so far-fetched, you'd swear it was a fever dream. Imagine, if you will, the biting spray of the North Sea on your face, the rhythmic creak of timbers beneath your feet, and the comforting clang of a shield against its mate. You're a Viking, a seasoned raider, your beard a testament to countless winters, your hands calloused from oar and axe. But tonight, there's no familiar coastline on the horizon, no promise of plunder in distant Anglo-Saxon lands. Instead, you're clinging to the deck of your longship, being tossed about like a child's toy in a cosmic washing machine. This isn't just a storm, it's a cosmic temper tantrum, a maelstrom of wind and water that feels like the very gods are having a serious disagreement, and you, my friend, are smack dab in the middle of their celestial spat. You probably won't survive this, but hey, at least you'll have a wild story, right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to post your location and local time in the comments, it's always fun to see where you're all tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're aboard the Sea Serpent, a vessel aptly named, you now realize, given the chaotic coils of water that whip around you. The mast, usually a proud finger pointing to the heavens, is now just a splintering stump, a tragic monument to the storm's fury. The sails, once filled with the wind of adventure, are long gone, torn to ribbons and swallowed by the abyss. You can feel the ship groan beneath you, a living thing protesting its impending doom. The air is thick with the scent of salt and fear, and the chilling roar of the wind drowns out even the most desperate prayers to Odin. Your crew, a hardy band of brothers, veterans of countless raids and storms, are mere shadows in the gloom, lashed to whatever remains of the ship's structure. Their faces, usually grim and determined, are now etched with a mixture of terror and grim acceptance. You see Halfdan, usually so boisterous, his booming laugh now replaced by a silent, white-knuckled grip on a coil of rope. Thorvald, the ship's navigator, who could usually read the stars like an open book, stares into the swirling chaos, his compass undoubtedly useless, his knowledge of the known world rendered utterly irrelevant. This isn't a storm you can sail through, it's a force of nature, primal and unyielding, carrying you to, well, you have no idea where. Hours blur into an eternity. You lose track of time, of direction, of everything but the relentless assault of the elements. You might think, in your modern mind, that these Vikings were just unlucky. But for them, every creak, every lash of water, every sudden drop as the ship plunges down a monstrous wave, is a sign. The gods are speaking, or perhaps, the giants are stirring. The whispers of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, feel unnervingly close, not as a prophecy for some distant future, but as an immediate, visceral threat. You've heard the sagas, you've sung the songs of heroes meeting their glorious end, but somehow, being drowned in an unnamed tempest wasn't quite the glorious demise you had envisioned. No Valkyries here, just cold, dark water. Then, just as exhaustion threatens to pull you into the abyss, a shift. The wind, though still fierce, seems to lose some of its biting edge. The waves, while still immense, become slightly less chaotic, less intent on swallowing you whole. A faint, almost imperceptible shift in the air, from the icy grip of the North Sea to something warmer, something heavier. You're too weary to question it, too grateful for the slightest reprieve. You just cling on, hoping, praying, that this isn't some cruel trick of the sea. You're vaguely aware of a change in the light, a diffuse, greenish glow filtering through the churning clouds. It's not the sharp, cold light of a Nordic dawn, but something softer, almost humid. You try to push yourself up, your muscles screaming in protest, to get a better look. Your eyes, gritty with salt and fatigue, struggle to focus. And then you see it. Not the familiar dark, jagged coastline of Scandinavia or the misty shores of Britannia. Instead, a vast, swirling expanse of muddy brown water stretches before you. It's not the deep, unforgiving blue of the ocean, but a color you've never encountered in such a massive body. And beyond that, as the storm begins its slow, grudging retreat, you see a wall of green. Not the sparse, hardy trees of your homeland, but an impossibly dense, vibrant, overwhelming green, towering upwards, disappearing into the hazy sky. It's so lush, so impenetrable, it looks like a solid mass, an unyielding barrier against the world. You've heard tales of far-off lands, of warmer climes, but nothing, absolutely nothing, has prepared you for this. This isn't just land, this is a verdant, living fortress. A mainstream historical fact you might consider as you drift into this unknown. While Vikings are primarily known for their raids and settlements in Europe, there's archaeological evidence suggesting that Norse explorers, around 1000 AD, ventured far beyond familiar waters, reaching North America centuries before Columbus. So, while your current predicament might seem fantastical, the spirit of Viking exploration was very real, pushing the boundaries of the known world. Though, admittedly, the Amazon is quite a detour from Vinland. As the sun, a muted, unfamiliar orb, attempts to break through the lingering clouds, you begin to take in more details. The water is thick, carrying debris you don't recognize, strange, giant leaves, twisted vines, and even entire trees, ripped from some distant shore. The air itself feels different, heavy, humid, carrying the scent of damp earth and unfamiliar blossoms. It's a primal smell, something ancient and untamed, a stark contrast to the crisp, clean air of the fjords. You can almost taste the dampness, a thick, cloying sensation on your tongue. A quirky tidbit that might make you scratch your head, even in your current days. Did you know that some historians debate whether Vikings might have even made it as far south as the Caribbean? While there's no concrete proof, the idea of them navigating those tropical waters is a fascinating what-if. Your current situation takes that what-if and smashes it into a holy Thor, where are we scenario. You hear a low groan from Halfdan, who's managed to untangle himself from a rope. He points a trembling finger towards the green wall. By the beard of Odin, he rasps, his voice hoarse from the wind, what manner of land is this? His question hangs in the heavy air, unanswered. The silence that follows is not comforting, it's pregnant with a strange, unsettling energy. You can almost feel the jungle watching you, a million unseen eyes observing your ship, battered and broken, a foreign intrusion in its ancient domain. The ship, surprisingly, hasn't completely broken apart. It's a testament to Norse craftsmanship, a stubborn defiance against the storm's best efforts. But it's severely damaged, barely afloat, riding low in the strange, brown water. The keel grates occasionally against something unseen beneath the surface, a soft, unsettling rumble that sends shivers down your spine. You know, instinctively, that you're not out of danger. You've merely traded the wrath of the sea for the mystery of the land. Historians still argue whether the navigational techniques of the Vikings, relying heavily on sun compasses and observation of birds and marine life, would have allowed for such extensive accidental voyages. But you, in this moment, are living proof that sometimes the elements have a far grander, and far more terrifying, plan. You are truly lost, in a way no Viking has ever been lost before, in a place no saga has ever whispered about. The familiar world has vanished, swallowed by the storm, and in its place, a new, bewildering reality has emerged. You stare at the green horizon, a mixture of awe and trepidation bubbling in your gut. This isn't just a new land, it feels like a new world, completely alien, utterly indifferent to your presence. The sea serpent, wounded but resilient, drifts slowly through the vast, turbid expanse of water. It's an alien chorus, a constant, living hum that speaks of countless unseen creatures. You're used to the calls of gulls and the lonely howl of the wind. This is an orchestra of the wild, unnerving in its complexity. You scan the horizon, desperate for any familiar landmark. There is none. Just the endless river, the towering green, and the occasional, enormous floating log that might actually be an entire tree, roots and all, ripped from the bank somewhere far upstream. It's disorienting. Your internal compass, honed by years of navigating the northern seas, is spinning wildly, useless in this strange new world. You've journeyed to the ends of your known Earth, and somehow stumbled through a doorway into another. Half Dan, still pale but regaining some of his usual gruffness, nudges you. Look, he grunts, pointing to a dark shape barely visible near the distant green bank. It's massive, low in the water, and seems to be moving with an unnerving slowness. As you squint, straining your eyes, you realize it's not a log. It's an animal, unlike anything you've ever seen. It's long, scaly, with a broad, flat head and eyes that seem to gleam with ancient indifference. A crocodile, you'll learn later, or perhaps a caiman, but in this moment, it's just another monstrous sign that you are utterly, hopelessly, not in Kansas anymore. Or rather, not in Kattegat. This river, you discover, is not merely wide, it's a labyrinth, a sprawling network of channels and smaller tributaries that branch off into the dense vegetation. You and the remaining crew try to paddle, using makeshift oars fashioned from splintered timbers, but the current is surprisingly strong, pulling you inexorably downstream, deeper and deeper into the unknown. It feels less like navigation and more like being a leaf caught in an unstoppable flow. You pass islands of floating vegetation, small ecosystems unto themselves, complete with exotic, brightly colored birds that eye your damaged ship with what seems like intelligent curiosity. A quirky historical tidbit for you: did you know that some theories suggest Vikings might have used birds, particularly ravens, to help them navigate? They would release ravens, and if the bird flew away and didn't return, it indicated land was nearby. Good luck with that here. These birds probably have their own GPS, and it certainly isn't pointing towards Norway. You're truly on your own, relying on sheer will and a healthy dose of Viking stubbornness. As the day progresses, the sun climbs higher, and the heat becomes truly oppressive. You're a child of the cold, of bracing winds and snow-dusted peaks. This humid embrace saps your energy, leaving you feeling sluggish and disoriented. Your leather tunics, usually a comfort against the cold, now feel like suffocating burdens. Sweat streams down your face, stinging your eyes, and your throat is parched. The fresh water barrels, if any survived the storm, are long gone, likely splintered and emptied into the churning salt water. Now, surrounded by endless brown water, you realize the cruel irony. Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. You spot strange, vivid flowers clinging to the banks, their colors so intense they seem almost artificial. Brilliant reds, shocking purples, and electric blues stand out against the overwhelming green. Insects, large and buzzing, flit amongst them, their hum adding to the jungle's constant symphony. You swat at one particularly large, iridescent beetle that lands on your arm, its legs surprisingly strong against your skin. This place isn't just different, it's alive, teeming with life in a way your colder homeland never was. It's a vibrant, almost overwhelming explosion of existence. Historians still argue whether the concept of oceanic currents was fully understood by ancient mariners, or if their long-distance voyages were more a combination of luck, coastal hugging, and skilled reading of natural signs. But for you, the brutal reality of an unseen, powerful current is undeniable, pulling you deeper into this alien land, a force far stronger than any dragon boat. You are no longer the master of your destiny, the river is. Hours turn into what feels like days. The sun sets, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, casting long, strange shadows over the water. The jungle sounds intensify as twilight descends, becoming louder, more guttural, a cacophony of unknown creatures stirring to life. The air cools slightly, but the humidity remains, a constant, damp blanket. You try to get some rest, huddling with your crew, but sleep is elusive. Every rustle from the bank, every splash in the water, every unfamiliar call sends a jolt of unease through you. You're acutely aware of the vulnerability of your position. Your axes and swords feel heavy, cumbersome, perhaps even useless against the unknown threats this land might hold. You're warriors, yes, but you're also farmers and traders, people who understand the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of the land. This land, however, speaks a language you don't understand, a language of ancient growth and primal power. It's an environment that feels both magnificent and terrifying, beautiful and utterly indifferent to your small, human struggles. You remember the tales told around the hearth fires back home, of frost giants and fire demons, of mythical beasts guarding ancient treasures. Those tales, once frightening, now seem almost comforting in their familiarity. At least you knew what you were up against. Here, every shadow holds a potential monster, every unseen sound a hidden danger. It's a fear born not of strength or weakness, but of sheer, overwhelming ignorance. You are a fish out of water, or perhaps, a Viking out of the fjord. As the stars begin to emerge, a breathtaking display of celestial bodies you've never seen before fills the sky. The familiar constellations of the north are gone, replaced by glittering patterns that are both stunning and utterly disorienting. Even the moon, when it appears, seems to hang differently, casting an ethereal glow over the vast river. It's another reminder of how far you've traveled, not just in distance, but in every conceivable way. This isn't just a new continent, it's a new cosmos, a new reality. And you, a humble Norseman, are simply a passenger, adrift on the currents of fate. You can only hope that whatever lies ahead is less terrifying than the journey you've already endured. The sea serpent eventually grounds itself, not with a jarring crash, but with a soft, almost weary sigh, in a muddy bank. The current, which had been your relentless tormentor, now cradles your damaged vessel, pushing it gently against the dense wall of vegetation. You and your surviving crew, a mere handful of men compared to the proud company that set sail, scramble ashore, your legs unsteady, accustomed to the constant roll of the deck. The ground beneath your worn boots is soft, yielding, and eerily silent, save for the incessant hum of the jungle. It's a strange feeling, to be on solid land after so long adrift, but this land offers little comfort. It feels less like a welcoming embrace and more like a patient, waiting presence. You're immediately struck by the sheer scale of everything. The trees here aren't just tall, they are colossal, ancient sentinels with roots like gnarled, forgotten deities, disappearing into the undergrowth. Their canopies form a dense, unbroken ceiling, filtering the sunlight into a dim, emerald glow that bathes the forest floor. It's like stepping into some vast, cathedral-like hall, but one built by nature, not by man, and infinitely more intricate. The air is heavy, perfumed with the scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, and the cloying sweetness of unseen flowers. It's a primal scent, a mix of life and decay, that fills your lungs and tingles in your nostrils. Your first priority is water. The river, while immense, is too murky, too full of unknown life, to risk drinking. Halfdan, ever the pragmatist, points to the hanging vines, thick as a man's arm, that drape from the trees like forgotten ropes. Perhaps, he rasps, his throat raw, there is moisture within them. You watch as he draws his axe, its familiar weight a momentary comfort, and with a grunt, severs one of the thickest vines. A clear liquid, surprisingly cool, drips out. It's sweet, refreshing, a taste of life in this overwhelming wilderness. You and your crew greedily slurp the precious fluid, feeling your strength slowly return. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen we joked about? You're definitely in a situation where you'd probably try it if someone told you it worked. As you venture deeper, even just a few paces from the river's edge, the density of the jungle becomes almost claustrophobic. Every step is an effort, your boots sinking into the soft earth, tangled in roots and hidden creepers. The undergrowth is a living, breathing tapestry of leaves, ferns, and thorny bushes, all vying for space and light. You find yourselves pushing aside enormous, paddle-shaped leaves, ducking under low-hanging branches, and constantly checking for unseen obstacles. The sounds intensify here, too. The buzz of insects seems louder, the chirps and calls more distinct, and every now and then, a sudden, piercing shriek from the canopy above makes you instinctively reach for your axe. It's a vibrant, terrifying symphony of the wild. A mainstream historical fact that might give you a shiver: the Amazon rainforest is, even today, one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, home to millions of species, many of which are still undiscovered. For a Viking, accustomed to the relatively sparse ecosystems of northern Europe, this would be an overwhelming assault on the senses, a world teeming with life they couldn't possibly comprehend. You encounter creatures unlike anything from your sagas. Small, brightly colored frogs with skin that shimmers like jewels cling to leaves, their very beauty a warning. Giant, iridescent butterflies flutter silently through the emerald light, their wingspans wider than your hand. And then there are the ants, monstrously large, marching in organized columns, their mandibles looking sharp enough to sever a finger. You step carefully, watching where you place your feet, a new kind of caution born from this alien environment. The predators here don't roar like bears or wolves, they hiss, they slither, they hang silently, waiting. You come across trees with bark so smooth and metallic it reflects your weary face like a distorted mirror. Others have thorns like daggers, or strange, bulbous fruits hanging from their branches, their colors too vibrant, too enticing, to risk a taste. The air is thick with the scent of unseen flowers, some cloyingly sweet, others vaguely medicinal, and a few that carry a faint, unsettling odor of decay. It's an intoxicating, overwhelming sensory experience, a constant barrage of sights, sounds, and smells that leaves you feeling both awed and deeply, profoundly unsettled. A quirky tidbit that might make you pause, even amidst your survival instincts: some of the plants in the Amazon, like the Victoria amazonica water lily, have leaves so large and sturdy they can reportedly support the weight of a small child. Imagine seeing a plant that could hold Halfdan. It's just another example of the sheer, audacious scale of this place. As you push deeper, the light grows dimmer, the canopy becoming an almost impenetrable ceiling. The ground becomes wetter, muddier, and you occasionally stumble into hidden pools of stagnant water, teeming with unseen life. The concept of direction, already muddled, becomes utterly meaningless. Every tree looks the same, every turn in the winding, unmarked path seems to lead back to where you started. You're lost, not just physically, but existentially. The familiar markers of your world, the sun's arc, the stars, the prevailing winds, are useless here. You are swallowed by the green. Historians still argue whether the concept of getting lost was as terrifying for ancient peoples as it is for modern ones, given their often more intimate connection to nature and reliance on local guides. But for you, a Norseman dropped into a totally alien ecosystem, lost takes on a whole new, terrifying meaning. There are no familiar spirits of the land to appease, no well-worn trails to follow, no distant smoke to guide you. Just an endless, green maze. You begin to notice small, subtle signs that this place, despite its wildness, is not entirely untouched. A broken branch, too cleanly snapped to be natural. A faint, almost imperceptible pathway, barely discernible amidst the dense undergrowth. A scattering of discarded fruit pits, unlike any fruit you know, but clearly consumed by something with intelligence. You keep your guard up, your hand resting on the hilt of your axe. You're not alone here. The thought of finding actual people, indigenous to this land, is a double-edged sword. On one hand, they might offer guidance, knowledge of this bewildering environment. On the other, your arrival, a band of heavily armed, strange-looking men from across the great waters, might not be met with hospitality. You've been on the other side of such encounters, and you know how they can end. You're a Viking, a raider, but here, you're just a speck in a vast, indifferent world, far from any allies. As evening approaches, the air grows even heavier, the humidity thick and suffocating. The light fades quickly, plunging the jungle into a deep, echoing twilight. The sounds intensify, the croaks of unseen frogs, the buzzing of a million insects, the rustle of leaves that could be the wind, or something far more menacing. You find a small clearing, barely large enough for your weary crew, and prepare to make camp. There's no wood to speak of for a proper fire, everything is too damp, too green. You huddle together, relying on the dwindling warmth of your bodies and the shared anxiety of your situation. You lie on the damp earth, staring up at the tiny patches of sky visible through the dense canopy, where a few unfamiliar stars twinkle faintly. Your mind races, trying to process the sheer improbability of your situation. One moment, you were sailing the known seas, bound for familiar shores. The next, you are here, in a world that defies every expectation, every belief. The sagas speak of journeys to unknown lands, of encounters with mythical beasts, but even the wildest tales of the Skalds could not have conjured up this humid, teeming, utterly alien wilderness. You close your eyes, trying to conjure the crisp, clean air of the fjords, the scent of pine and salt, the comforting roar of the waves against a rocky shore. But all you can smell is damp earth and decaying leaves, and all you can hear is the relentless, whispering hum of the jungle. Days bleed into an indistinguishable blur of green and gloom. You and your dwindled crew are a collection of living wounds, scratched and bitten, perpetually damp and constantly on edge. The jungle, it turns out, is not just a place of immense beauty, it's a master of psychological warfare. The constant humidity makes everything feel heavy and oppressive. Your clothes cling to you, perpetually damp, and the air itself feels thick, as if you're breathing water. You find yourself swatting at unseen insects, a futile exercise against the countless buzzing, biting things that call this place home. Malaria and dengue fever? Never heard of them, but you're certainly feeling something that drains your energy faster than a raid on a monastery. You quickly learn the jungle's rhythm, a symphony of sounds that shifts with the light. The mornings bring a chorus of bird calls, some melodious, others shockingly raucous, echoing through the canopy. Midday settles into a quieter, more oppressive heat, punctuated by the buzz of insects and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. As evening approaches, the sounds intensify again, becoming deeper, more guttural, a chorus of croaks, chirps, and the unsettling cries of night predators. Sleep, when it comes, is fitful, haunted by the alien sounds and the pervasive sense of being watched. Your diet has become a desperate improvisation. You've learned to identify some of the safer fruits, their sweet, pulpy flesh offering a meager reprieve from constant hunger. You've even managed to spear a few of the massive, slow-moving fish from the murky pools, cooking them over small, smoky fires made from drier twigs, the smoke a constant irritant but a necessary shield against the biting insects. You've seen other creatures, too, some awe-inspiring, others terrifying. Monkeys with faces like painted masks peered down from the canopy, their chatter a constant, mocking commentary on your struggles. Gigantic, brilliantly colored snakes, thick as a man's thigh, slither silently through the undergrowth, their movements almost imperceptible until they vanish into the foliage. You give them a wide berth, your axes feeling woefully inadequate against such ancient, primal power. A mainstream historical fact: Vikings, while skilled hunters and fishers, relied heavily on domesticated animals and cultivated crops for their diet. Imagine the shock of being thrust into an environment where your survival depended on identifying edible wild plants and hunting entirely alien creatures. Your survival instincts are being rewritten, bite by bite, by the jungle itself. One evening, as twilight paints the undergrowth in shades of bruised purple, you hear a sound unlike any other, a low, guttural growl that vibrates through the very ground. It's followed by a series of heavy thuds, like massive stones being dropped from a height. Your heart pounds in your chest. Halfdan, usually fearless, looks genuinely unnerved. "What in hell's name was that?" he whispers, his voice unusually strained. "You don't know." It's a sound that speaks of immense power, of something ancient and truly wild, a predator far larger than any wolf or bear from your homeland. You huddle closer together, gripping your weapons, waiting for the unknown to reveal itself, or mercifully, to pass by. A quirky tidbit that might make you shift uncomfortably: the Amazon rainforest is home to jaguars, powerful and elusive apex predators. These big cats are known for their incredible stealth and crushing bite. You're hearing something that, to your Viking ears, sounds like a very large, very angry mythical beast, but it's just the jungle doing what it does best, being utterly, majestically terrifying. You're constantly discovering new dangers. One morning, while attempting to cross a small stream, you spot a pair of red eyes peering from the murky water. A caiman, you now know, a smaller relative of the massive beast you saw in the river. It's a chilling reminder that even the water, seemingly a source of life, holds its own deadly secrets. You learn to walk around such obstacles, even if it means longer, more arduous journeys. Every step is a negotiation with the jungle, a constant assessment of risk and reward. Historians still argue whether the Norse sagas, with their descriptions of mythical beasts and dangerous lands, were purely allegorical or if they contained kernels of truth inspired by real encounters with unfamiliar wildlife and treacherous environments. For you, surrounded by the reality of the Amazon, the lines between myth and reality are blurring faster than a startled jaguar. The days become a monotonous routine of struggling through the undergrowth, searching for food and water, and trying to avoid becoming food for something else. Your armor, once a symbol of strength and protection, is now a heavy, hot burden, constantly snagging on thorns and vines. You shed pieces of it, opting for agility over heavy defense, a stark departure from your usual battle-hardened practices. Your axes and swords, while still useful for cutting through thick vegetation, feel increasingly inadequate against the myriad, unseen threats. You're adapting, slowly, begrudgingly, to the jungle's rules, shedding your Viking identity bit by bit, becoming something else, a survivor, perhaps, but certainly a stranger in a strange land. You try to maintain a sense of morale, telling familiar sagas around your pitiful fires, tales of Odin and Thor, of great battles and glorious victories. But the stories feel hollow here, the gods of Asgard seeming distant, powerless in the face of this overwhelming, alien wilderness. There are no frosty giants here, no fire demons, just 1,000 shades of green and the buzzing, whispering menace of the unseen. The jungle has its own gods, you realize, and they are far more ancient, far more primal, than yours. You come across a vast, ancient tree, its trunk so wide it would take 10 men hand in hand to encircle it. Its branches reach skyward, disappearing into the distant canopy, and its roots, like vast, muscular tentacles, spread across the forest floor. There's something profoundly spiritual about it, a sense of immense age and quiet power. You find yourself touching its rough bark, a momentary connection to something enduring in this ephemeral, shifting world. It feels like a silent witness to countless millennia, a living monument to the jungle's ancient heart. You wonder what stories it could tell, what forgotten spirits might reside within its vast embrace. As you push deeper, you start to notice more subtle changes in the environment, signs that are not just natural, but perhaps man-made. A small, almost imperceptible cairn of stones, half swallowed by moss and vines. A faint, rhythmic drumbeat, so distant it might just be the pounding in your ears, or the jungle playing tricks on your mind. These fleeting glimpses of something organized, something human, ignite a flicker of hope, even as they fill you with a new kind of dread. You're not alone. But are those who share this land with you friend or foe? You're a Viking, you usually decide that, but here the jungle decides. And it is about to introduce you to its keepers. The faint, rhythmic thrumming you've been hearing grows undeniably stronger. It's not the erratic pulse of the jungle, but something deliberate, something made. You follow the sound, pushing through a particularly dense thicket of thorny vines, your hands raw and bleeding. As you break free, you stumble into a small, sun-dappled clearing, and freeze. Before you, a group of figures emerges from the shadows of the trees. These are not the pale-skinned folk of Europe, nor the fair-haired warriors of your own kind. These are the people of this land. They are slight of build, their skin the color of rich earth, adorned with vibrant feathers and intricate patterns painted on their bodies. Their eyes, dark and intelligent, watch you with a mixture of curiosity and caution. They carry long, slender bows and spears tipped with obsidian, their stance alert but not overtly aggressive. You grip your axe tighter, your crew mirroring your tension. This is an encounter you've never trained for, a battle of cultures rather than steel. A mainstream historical fact you might consider in this tense moment: when Europeans first arrived in the Americas, they encountered a vast array of indigenous cultures, each with their own complex societies, languages, and belief systems. Your Viking encounter is, in a strange way, mirroring those historical first contacts, albeit centuries earlier and with a much more Nordic flavor. One of them, an elder perhaps, adorned with a magnificent headdress of iridescent green feathers, steps forward. His face is lined with age, his gaze steady. He speaks, and the sounds are a cascade of soft clicks, whistles, and guttural tones, a language utterly alien to your ears. You shake your head, trying to convey your lack of understanding. Halfdan attempts a few gruff Norse greetings, which are met with blank stares. Communication, it seems, will be a significant hurdle. Despite the language barrier, there's a palpable sense of communication that transcends words. Their expressions convey caution, but also a flicker of curiosity. They seem to study your strange clothing, your metal weapons, your pale skin, as if you are creatures from another world, which, in a very real sense, you are. You, in turn, observe their lean, powerful physiques, their deep connection to the environment, and the calm authority with which the elder carries himself. You realize, with a humbling jolt, that in this jungle, you are the outsiders, the vulnerable ones. A quirky tidbit to ease the tension: imagine trying to explain the concept of a longship or a proper horned helmet to these people. You'd probably get a lot of polite nods, and then they'd offer you some strange fruit they know is safe to eat. Practicality over cultural exchange, every time. The elder makes a gesture, beckoning you forward. After a moment of hesitation, you decide that fighting is futile and likely suicidal in this unknown territory. You cautiously step forward, your crew following your lead, their hands still on their weapon hilts. They lead you deeper into the jungle, along paths that are invisible to your untrained eyes but clearly marked for them. You pass through natural arches of roots, under canopies so thick that only slivers of sunlight penetrate, and always, the omnipresent hum of the jungle accompanies you. As you trek, you notice small, intricately woven traps set amongst the foliage, designed to catch small game. You see signs of their daily life, small, temporary shelters woven from leaves and branches, the lingering scent of smoke from their cooking fires. They are hunter-gatherers, living in harmony with this formidable environment, a stark contrast to your own people's settlements and agricultural practices. This jungle isn't just their home, it's their entire world, their provider, their protector, and their constant teacher. Historians still argue whether initial encounters between vastly different cultures are more often characterized by curiosity and cautious exchange or immediate conflict and exploitation. In your case, it seems curiosity has won the first round, a small victory in a world full of unknowns. They lead you to a larger clearing, where several more of their people are gathered around a crackling fire. Women are tending to pots bubbling over the flames, and children, wide-eyed and silent, peek out from behind their parents. The air here is thick with the aroma of roasting meat and unfamiliar herbs. The elder gestures towards the fire, inviting you to sit. You do so, cautiously, your back to a sturdy tree, maintaining a watchful eye on your surroundings. They offer you food, small, roasted fish and a starchy root vegetable unlike anything you've tasted. It's surprisingly palatable, and the warmth of the fire, combined with the hot food, brings a welcome comfort to your chilled, damp bones. The tension slowly begins to recede, replaced by a cautious curiosity. You notice the way they move, with an effortless grace that speaks of a lifetime spent in this challenging environment. They are clearly masters of this domain, and you are merely bewildered guests. As you eat, the elder begins to speak again, this time with more emphasis, his hands gesturing towards the sky, towards the vast river, and then, most unsettlingly, towards a symbol carved into a large, flat stone near the fire. It's a stylized serpent, coiled and powerful, with prominent, feathery plumes adorning its head. He repeats a word, slowly, distinctly, Kukulkan. And then, another word, spoken with a reverence that borders on fear, serpent. Your heart clenches. Serpent. You know a serpent. A great serpent, coiled around the world, destined to rise at Ragnarok. Could it be? Here? In this alien land? The thought is preposterous, insane. But then, you remember the inexplicable storm, the impossible journey, the sheer, overwhelming unreality of your current situation. Perhaps, you think, there is more connecting these distant lands than any Skald has ever dreamed. The elder continues, his voice growing more serious, pointing to the river, mimicking a great, undulating movement, and then pointing to the carved serpent, a look of profound unease on his face. You might scoff at modern-day conspiracy theories, but you're pretty sure this isn't just a friendly chat about the weather. You attempt to ask questions, using gestures, pointing to the river, making a coiling motion with your hand, then pointing to the carved serpent. The elder nods, his eyes widening slightly, as if surprised by your understanding. He then makes a gesture, tracing a path across the heavens, and then pointing down, to the earth, making a rumbling motion. He repeats the word Kukulkan, then adds another, Awakens. A chill, far colder than any Nordic winter, washes over you. Awakens. The great serpent. Here. In a land that holds its own ancient, terrifying power. Your mind, trained in the prophecies of Ragnarok, begins to draw unsettling parallels. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, destined to rise from the ocean and bring about the end of days. Could it be that the legends of your world and the legends of this new one are, in some unfathomable way, intertwined? It's a terrifying thought, a whisper of cosmic dread in the humid air. The jungle hums around you, 1,000 unseen creatures bearing witness to a truth that is slowly, horrifyingly, beginning to dawn. The word Kukulkan, repeated by the elder, echoes in your mind, intertwining with the ominous serpent and Awakens. You try to make sense of it, to reconcile the impossible. Your own sagas speak of Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, so vast it encircles the world, its tail in its mouth. It is the child of Loki, a monstrous harbinger of Ragnarok. The thought of this beast, a creature of ice and sea, somehow connected to this humid, vibrant jungle, is utterly absurd. And yet, the very absurdity of your situation, the impossible storm, the alien land, lends a terrifying plausibility to the elder's words. You gesture to the carved serpent on the stone, then make a wide circle with your arms, trying to convey the world. The elder nods, a knowing look in his dark eyes. He then points to himself, then to his people, then to the jungle, and finally, gestures towards the carved serpent, making a gesture of reverence and fear. He speaks again, slowly, as if teaching a child, repeating Kukulkan, and then adding other words, words you don't understand, but spoken with a weight that transcends language. You pick up on a few repeated sounds that you start to associate with concepts, sky, water, earth, and great spirit. It's a rudimentary, but desperate, attempt at communication. A mainstream historical fact that lends weight to this moment, many ancient cultures around the world, from the Norse to the Mesoamericans, developed rich mythologies featuring great serpents or dragons. These creatures often symbolized primal forces, creation, or destruction, reflecting humanity's deep-seated fascination and fear of powerful, untamed nature. The universality of such archetypes is, frankly, a bit unsettling when you're caught in the middle of it. The elder, seeing your persistent efforts to understand, begins to tell a story through gestures and simplified sounds. He points to the sky, then sweeps his hand down, indicating something descending. He then points to the river, mimicking the undulating movement of the serpent, and then to the jungle, conveying its lushness. He then makes a gesture of offering, as if presenting something precious. From what you can gather, the feathered serpent, Kukulkan, is a powerful deity, a bringer of life and wisdom, deeply connected to water and the sky. This is good, you think, a benevolent spirit. But then, his demeanor changes. His brow furrows, and his gestures become more agitated. He points to the sun, then makes a downward motion, indicating its setting, then to the carved serpent, and then, ominously, makes a forceful, rising motion with his hands, as if something immense is stirring from the depths. He repeats the Awakens, and then makes a sound that is chillingly similar to a low growl, coupled with a wide, open-mouthed gesture of terror. He then points to the river again, but this time, he makes a gesture of tearing, of destruction. A quirky tidbit that might make your blood run cold. Imagine for a moment that the reason so many diverse cultures have similar mythological creatures isn't just coincidence, but because, well, something is out there, something primordial, something that pops up in different places throughout history. Just a thought to keep you awake. Your mind races, connecting the dots. Kukulkan is a benevolent deity, yes, but also a sleeping power, a force that, when roused, brings about destruction. Just like Jormungandr, who slumbers in the depths of the ocean, but whose awakening signals the end of the world. The parallels are too strong, too terrifying to dismiss as mere coincidence. You remember the unearthly storm, the feeling of being dragged through a vortex, not just across an ocean, but perhaps through dimensions, through prophecies. You try to articulate your own understanding, pointing to your chest, then making a long, winding motion with your hand, indicating a journey. Then you gesture to the sky, mimicking the storm, and finally, point to the elder and his people, then to yourself and your crew, then back to the carved serpent, making a gesture of bewilderment and fear. You try to convey that your storm, your journey, seems to have awakened this very creature. The elder's eyes widen further, a flicker of understanding passing between you. He nods slowly, gravely, then gestures to the sky, then to the carved serpent, and then to the vast river, making a sighing sound. It's as if he's confirming your worst fears. The great storm was indeed linked to the serpent stirring. Your arrival, your desperate voyage, has somehow become a catalyst in their ancient prophecy, just as their world is now entwined with yours. Historians still argue whether the concept of cultural diffusion, the spread of cultural elements from one society to another, can explain all mythological similarities, or if there are deeper, universal human experiences that lead to similar narratives. But for you, the chilling echo of Jormungandr in the Elder's Kukulkan feels less like diffusion and more like a cosmic punch to the gut. The atmosphere around the campfire shifts. The cautious hospitality remains, but beneath it, a palpable sense of unease. The other villagers, who had been observing with curiosity, now exchange nervous glances. The children, previously wide-eyed, now cling to their mothers. Your arrival, once just an oddity, has taken on a new, more profound significance. You are not just shipwrecked strangers, you are, in some inexplicable way, woven into the fabric of their world's approaching doom. The elder continues to speak, his voice low and urgent, using the same gestures, but adding new ones, pointing to the river, then to the surrounding jungle, making sweeping gestures of desolation. He then points to the sky, mimicking clouds, and then makes a gesture of a terrible, consuming flood. He is describing, you realize, the consequences of the serpent's full awakening, a cataclysm that will engulf their world, destroying everything. You think of Ragnarok, of the final battle, of the world serpent Jormungandr emerging from the ocean, spewing poison, drowning the land. The images, once distant prophecies, now feel alarmingly real, horrifyingly imminent. The feathered serpent of the Amazon, the Kukulkan of these people, is their Jormungandr. And you, it seems, have played a hand in its rising. It's a responsibility you never asked for, a burden you couldn't possibly have foreseen when you set sail from your familiar fjord. You find yourself staring at the carved serpent, its feathers seeming to shimmer in the flickering firelight, its eyes glinting with a cold, ancient power. Is it the same creature? Or a different manifestation of a universal, destructive force? You don't know. But the fear is real, a cold knot in your stomach. You're no longer just trying to survive, you're caught in a prophecy, a cosmic entanglement of Norse and Amazonian mythology, with the fate of two worlds, or at least one, hanging in the balance. As the night deepens, the jungle sounds grow louder, more alive. Every rustle of leaves, every distant splash, every croak seems to carry a new, ominous weight. You imagine the vast river, unseen in the darkness, and wonder if the great serpent, stirred by your impossible journey, is already beginning to coil, to stretch, to awaken from its long slumber beneath the muddy waters. You feel the immense, ancient power of this place pressing in on you, a power far beyond any god you've ever worshipped. And for the first time, your Viking bravery feels a little less like defiance, and a lot more like sheer, unadulterated terror. The air in the clearing feels heavy, thick with the unspoken fear that now hangs between your shipwrecked crew and the indigenous people. The elder's story, told in gestures and fractured understanding, has painted a chilling picture. Your impossible arrival, seemingly a random act of fate, has somehow nudged an ancient, slumbering power into motion. The humid air, which once felt merely oppressive, now feels charged, alive with a strange, nascent energy. You find yourself constantly scanning the dark periphery of the jungle, half expecting to see vast coils shifting amongst the trees, or feel the ground tremble beneath you. The days that follow are marked by an unsettling blend of tense observation and growing dread. The indigenous people, while still offering sustenance and shelter, treat you with a new deference, a cautious respect tinged with fear. You are no longer just lost foreigners, you are, in their eyes, unwitting agents in a looming catastrophe. They watch you, and you watch them, trying to decipher every gesture, every whispered word. They speak often of the time before, a golden age when Kukulkan was a benevolent sky serpent, a bringer of rain and life. Now, their whispers are of a different kind of awakening, one that promises only destruction. A mainstream historical fact for you, many pre-Columbian cultures in the Americas had cyclical views of time, believing in eras of creation and destruction, often tied to celestial events or the actions of powerful deities. The idea of a world-ending event, or a Ragnarok, wasn't unique to the Norse. For these people, the current signs might be seen as the beginning of a new, catastrophic cycle. You attempt to communicate more, drawing crude images in the dirt, your longship, the storm, then the carved serpent, and a rising sun with a crack through it. You point to the elder, then to yourself, then to the image of the cracked sun. The elder understands. He nods grimly, then points to the river, making a slow, undulating motion, his hand trembling slightly. He then places his hand over his heart, conveying a deep sadness. It is clear that the serpent is stirring, and its awakening brings sorrow, not joy. You might think, given your track record, that you're quite good at finding trouble, but this takes the gold medal. The jungle itself seems to become more restless. The sounds intensify, not just in volume, but in urgency. Distant roars, deeper and more primal than anything you've heard before, echo through the canopy. The normal cacophony of birds and insects is occasionally punctuated by sudden, terrified silences, as if the jungle holds its breath, waiting. You notice that the indigenous people are performing more rituals, their drumbeats more fervent, their chanting more desperate. They offer sacrifices of fruit and rare flowers at small, hidden altars deep within the forest, their faces etched with a profound sense of urgency. A quirky tidbit to make you squirm, some Amazonian tribes historically used hallucinogenic plants in their rituals to commune with spirits or gain visions. Imagine one of your Viking berserkers accidentally taking a hit of that. He'd probably either achieve true enlightenment or just try to fight a tree, yelling about Loki. One afternoon, a series of tremors ripple through the ground. It's not a violent shaking, but a deep, resonant vibration, as if something immense is shifting far beneath the earth's surface. The villagers cry out, their faces pale with terror. The elder points to the river, then to the sky, then sweeps his arm in a gesture of despair. The earth, it seems, is acknowledging the serpent's awakening. You recall the Norse tales of the earth groaning and mountains splitting as Jormungandr thrashes in the depths. The parallels are becoming less metaphorical and more terrifyingly literal. Historians still argue whether ancient accounts of natural disasters, like earthquakes or tsunamis, heavily influenced the apocalyptic prophecies found in many mythologies. For you, experiencing these tremors and connecting them to the prophecy of the world serpent, it feels less like a historical debate and more like a very immediate, very uncomfortable reality check. The river, once merely a brown expanse, begins to show signs of unnatural disturbance. Small, localized whirlpools appear, churning the muddy water into foamy eddies. Strange, phosphorescent glows occasionally flicker beneath the surface, faint but unmistakable, like distant lightning within the depths. The water level seems to fluctuate, rising and falling erratically, as if the river itself is taking deeper, more agitated breaths. You try to tell yourself it's just natural river phenomena, but the elder's terrified whispers of Kukulkan stirring make it impossible to ignore the ominous implications. Your crew, once boisterous and eager for battle, are now a grim, silent group. The jungle has stripped away their bravado, replacing it with a quiet, primal fear. They still grip their axes, but it's more for comfort than for any real hope of defense against what they now suspect is coming. You see Halfdan, usually so pragmatic, staring into the swirling eddies of the river, his face etched with a fear you rarely see. Even Thorvald, the stoic navigator, whispers about Loki's trickery and the inevitable doom of Ragnarok. The prophecies of your homeland, once distant tales for chilly nights, are now manifesting themselves in a hot, humid, utterly alien land. It's enough to make you wish you'd just stayed home and farmed turnips. The indigenous people begin to evacuate, not in a panicked rush, but with a mournful, organized haste. They gather their few possessions, their children clinging to their backs, and move deeper into the jungle, towards higher ground, towards places they believe are safer, though you suspect no place will be truly safe when a world serpent awakens. The elder approaches you, his eyes filled with sorrow. He gestures towards the river, then to the path they are taking, inviting you to join them. Safe, he murmurs, pointing to the higher ground. Kukulkan, angry. You look at your weary crew. To follow them into the unknown depths of the jungle, relying on their knowledge, feels like abandoning your own destiny. But to stay by the river, to face a rising world serpent, feels like suicide. Your Viking instincts, usually so clear in battle, are confused, muddied by the sheer impossibility of the situation. This isn't a battle you can win with an axe or a shield. This is a force of nature, perhaps even a force of gods. As the last of the villagers vanish into the green labyrinth, the silence that descends upon the clearing is profound and terrifying. Only you and your remaining crew are left, standing on the river bank, an unlikely vanguard against an ancient, rising power. The jungle's hum is now infused with an unsettling tension, a quiet before the storm, or perhaps, the quiet before the end. The river churns, the air vibrates, and somewhere, deep beneath the muddy waters, a colossal serpent stretches, its long slumber finally disturbed, its gaze now, perhaps, fixed on your small, vulnerable presence. The stillness after the village's departure is more unnerving than any storm. The jungle, no longer filled with the comforting chatter of human life, seems to hold its breath, every rustle of leaves, every distant croak amplified by the pervasive silence. You and your crew stand by the churning river, a small, isolated band of Norsemen in a world that feels increasingly hostile, increasingly alien. The decision to stay was not made lightly. Your Viking pride, your ingrained refusal to flee from any threat, combined with a morbid fascination with the Elder's prophecy, held you rooted to the spot. You had faced frost giants and raging seas. Surely, a serpent, even a large one, was just another beast to be conquered. Oh, how delightfully naive you were! The river itself is now a living, restless entity. The subtle tremors from before intensify, growing into a constant, low rumble that vibrates through your bones. The water churns and boils in patches, spitting muddy foam onto the banks. Massive bubbles, some the size of your head, burst on the surface, releasing a foul, sulphurous odor that catches in your throat. It smells like the earth itself is rotting, a premonition of decay. It's not the fresh scent of a fjord, that's for sure. A mainstream historical fact that might give you a shiver: geothermal activity, while not always visible, can cause strange phenomena in water bodies, from heating and bubbling to the release of gases. For ancient peoples, such occurrences were often attributed to powerful spirits or deities, signs of their anger or awakening. You watch, mesmerized and horrified, as the surface of the river begins to undulate in a new, more profound way. It's not just the current, it's as if something immense is stirring beneath, pushing against the water from below. The ripples grow into waves, then into powerful swells, slapping against the muddy banks with increasing force. Trees along the shoreline begin to sway violently, their roots groaning as if ripped from the earth. The sky, which had been a brilliant blue, begins to darken, not with storm clouds, but with a strange, unnatural gloom, as if the sun itself is recoiling from the unfolding horror. Halfdan, ever the one to state the obvious, lets out a strangled cry. By the beard of Odin, he gasps, "It comes!" He doesn't need to specify what comes. The air crackles with a nascent power, a raw, primal energy that raises the hairs on your arms. The jungle around you erupts in a cacophony of panicked animal sounds, the shrieks of monkeys, the squawking of birds, the terrified scurry of unseen creatures fleeing deeper into the foliage. Even the ceaseless hum of insects seems to have been replaced by a terrified buzzing retreat. A quirky tidbit that might make you think: imagine if the ancient Norse had encountered a boa constrictor. They'd probably call it a baby Jormungandr and then attempt to wrestle it into submission. Your current situation is like that, but with a serpent that could probably swallow your longship whole and still have room for dessert. Then, from the very heart of the turbulent river, a massive, dark shape begins to rise. It's slow at first, a shifting, shadowy mass beneath the churning water. But then it accelerates, breaking the surface with a deafening roar of displaced water. It's colossal, far larger than anything you could have imagined, its scales glistening with moisture, its body a shimmering mosaic of green and brown. Its head, when it finally emerges, is immense, with eyes that glow with an ancient, terrifying intelligence, and feathered plumes that fan out like a grotesque, beautiful crown. It is the feathered serpent, Kukulkan, the indigenous people's Jormungandr, and it is every bit as terrifying as the prophecies foretold. Historians still argue whether the concept of cultural memory might explain how distant civilizations could share similar mythologies, or if powerful, archetypal images simply arise independently. But for you, watching this living nightmare unfold, the shared imagery of a world serpent feels less like a scholarly debate and more like a cruel, inescapable fate. The sheer scale of the creature is breathtaking, horrifying. It dwarfs your longship, which looks like a child's toy next to its immense form. Its movements are fluid, powerful, graceful, despite its size. It coils and uncoils, shaking the very earth, sending tremors through the jungle. The air around it crackles with an almost palpable energy, a sense of immense, ancient power that feels utterly indifferent to your tiny presence. This isn't just a beast, It's a force of nature given terrible form. You and your crew stand frozen, your axes heavy and useless in your hands. What could mere steel do against such a monstrosity? This isn't a battle, it's an awakening, a cosmic event that you've stumbled into, a front row seat to the end of a world. The roar it emits is not just sound, it's a physical force, rattling your teeth, shaking your very core. It's a sound of primordial awakening, a bellow that speaks of ancient slumber disturbed and a terrible vengeance unleashed. You might have faced trolls and Draga, but this is a whole new level of nope. As it fully emerges, its scales shimmer with unnatural light, and you notice something else, something chillingly familiar. Along its back, running the length of its immense body, are patterns, intricate and swirling, that resemble the very knotwork and carvings found on your own Norse artifacts. It's a fleeting, impossible detail, but it locks into your mind, solidifying the terrifying connection. This isn't just a serpent, it feels like the serpent, a manifestation of the same primordial force that haunts your own prophecies. The creature turns its massive head, its glowing eyes fixing on your small group. There's no malice, no specific intent, just a vast, ancient awareness. You are simply there, a momentary flicker in its awakening. It rises higher, towering over the jungle canopy, its feathered plumes catching the strange, dim light. The river below it churns violently, forming a colossal whirlpool as the serpent continues to rise, shedding the muddy water from its immense coils. You hear Thorvald scream, a high-pitched sound of pure terror, as the sea serpent, your battered but beloved ship, is caught in the whirlpool created by the rising beast. It spins violently, then, with a splintering groan, is sucked under the churning water, vanishing without a trace. Your last link to your homeland, to the known world, is gone, swallowed by the awakening monster. Now, truly alone, truly marooned, you face the immense, terrifying presence of the feathered serpent. It coils above you, a living mountain of scales and feathers, its breath hot and sulphurous. This is the moment. This is the prophecy fulfilled, not on the fields of Vigrid, but in the humid heart of the Amazon. And you, a humble Viking warrior, are here to witness it, a chilling, terrifying blend of two worlds prophesied colliding in a single, devastating moment. Your axe feels impossibly light, impossibly small, against the vast, overwhelming power of the awakened dragon. The air shimmers around the colossal form of the feathered serpent, as if the very fabric of reality is warping under its presence. Its immense head, adorned with those iridescent plumes, slowly descends, not in an act of aggression, but of profound, ancient observation. Its eyes, glowing with a soft, inner light, sweep over your small, trembling group, and you feel as though your very soul is being weighed, judged by an entity that predates memory. This isn't just a beast of the wild, it's a living myth, a force of nature given flesh and scales. Your training, your instincts for battle, scream at you to run, to fight, but your mind, overwhelmed, can only process the sheer, terrifying majesty of it all. You might have seen some impressive dragons in your sagas, but this one definitely takes the cake, and probably eats the bakery too. The jungle, now stripped of its animal inhabitants, is utterly silent, save for the deep, resonant hum emanating from the serpent itself. It's a sound that seems to vibrate through the earth, a frequency that speaks of primordial power, of a world-shaping force. The river, no longer just a body of water, becomes an extension of the beast, churning violently around its base, the immense whirlpool expanding, threatening to swallow the very banks. You can feel the ground beneath your feet vibrating, a continuous tremor that threatens to throw you off balance. A mainstream historical fact that might cross your mind, if you weren't so utterly terrified. Across many ancient cultures, the idea of a world tree or world mountain existed, a central axis connecting the heavens, earth, an underworld. In this moment, with the immense serpent rising from the depths and seeming to touch the sky, it feels as if you are witnessing the emergence of a cosmic pillar, a living connection between realms. The serpent begins to uncoil further, its body seemingly endless, revealing intricate patterns on its scales, symbols that are eerily similar to the runic carvings on your own artifacts, intermingled with geometric designs that speak of an utterly alien artistry. It's a terrifying tapestry of two distinct worlds, woven onto the body of a single, colossal entity. You remember the prophecy of Jormungandr, how its thrashing would cause the seas to rage and the world to tremble. Here, in the Amazon, the prophecy is unfolding with a humid, verdant twist. The waves it creates aren't just water, they are extensions of its vast power, crashing against the banks, eroding the very ground you stand on. Your remaining crew members react with varying degrees of terror. Halfdan, usually so pragmatic, has dropped to his knees, his face buried in his hands, muttering desperate prayers to Odin. Thorvald, the stoic navigator, stands rigid, his eyes wide, his mouth agape, utterly consumed by the sight. You, too, feel a primal fear, but also a strange, morbid fascination. You are witnessing Ragnarok, not in the frozen wastes of the north, but in the sweltering heat of a foreign jungle, a surreal, horrifying climax to your impossible journey. This is definitely not the glorious death you'd imagined, it's more like a grand spectacle before being unceremoniously swallowed. A quirky tidbit that might momentarily distract you from impending doom. Imagine if these ancient Amazonian people had heard your Norse sagas. They'd probably think Jormungandr was just Kukulkan having a particularly bad hair day, perhaps after a long nap. The cultural exchange opportunities are truly endless, even when facing Armageddon. The feathered serpent slowly raises its massive head higher, until it is level with the upper branches of the tallest trees, its glowing eyes casting an otherworldly light upon the jungle. It lets out another deep, resonant sound, a low rumble that vibrates through the entire landscape, seemingly calling to something even deeper, even older. The air thickens further, becoming heavy with an unseen energy, and you feel a strange pressure building in your ears, as if the very atmosphere is being compressed. This isn't just a physical phenomenon, it feels spiritual, a direct assault on your very essence. Historians still argue whether the concept of a world-ending event is a universal human fear, or if it reflects specific cultural anxieties about natural disasters, societal collapse, or external threats. But for you, standing before this awakened serpent, it feels like a universal truth, a primal terror that transcends culture and language. This is the end, at least for this particular corner of the world. As the serpent's head reaches its zenith, the sky above begins to crack, not with thunder, but with fissures of light, shimmering with unnatural colors, emerald greens, sapphire blues, and molten golds. It's like watching a painting unravel, a cosmic canvas tearing at the seams. From these cracks, glowing fragments of energy begin to fall, like ethereal rain, hitting the river and sizzling on its surface, sending up plumes of steam that smell of ozone and something indescribably ancient. This is not just a monster, it's a tear in reality, an entity that brings cosmic chaos in its wake. You realize, with a chilling certainty, that this isn't just the serpent awakening, it's a larger cataclysm, a manifestation of Ragnarok itself. Your world, the Norse one, and this Amazonian one, are not just connected by prophecy, they are colliding. The lines between myth and reality, between Asgard and this jungle, are utterly dissolving before your eyes. You are witnessing a convergence of cosmic events, a single, devastating end playing out across two vastly different belief systems. It's the ultimate "I told you so," but nobody's alive to tell you. The serpent then turns its immense head towards the jungle, and with a slow, deliberate movement, begins to lower its body into the forest, not slithering, but moving with a deliberate, crushing force. Trees the size of longships snap like twigs beneath its massive coils, sending splintered wood and torn leaves flying. It's not moving with aggression, but with a horrifying inevitability, as if it's simply returning to its destined place, clearing a path for a new, terrifying era. The sounds of destruction are deafening, the splintering of wood, the tearing of roots, the guttural roars of the serpent, now laced with a strange, almost mournful quality, as if it too laments the destruction it brings. You and your remaining crew are caught between the encroaching destruction of the serpent and the churning, erupting river. There is no escape. The path the villagers took is now blocked by the serpent's massive, moving form, and the river is a maelstrom of destruction. You stand there, a lone Viking, watching your world, or at least this world, come to an end, crushed beneath the slow, inexorable movement of an ancient, awakened god-beast. Your axe, once a symbol of your power and defiance, feels utterly meaningless against this cosmic force. All you can do is witness, and perhaps, whisper a final prayer to Odin, hoping that even in this alien apocalypse, some form of Valhalla might await. The roar of the feathered serpent, now a constant, rumbling presence, fills the air, drowning out all other sounds. It's a sound that is both deafening and strangely, terrifyingly, internal, vibrating through your very bones. The glowing cracks in the sky expand, showering the jungle with iridescent motes of energy that sizzle and evaporate on contact with the rising waters. The light, once green and dappled, is now an apocalyptic twilight, a swirling vortex of unnatural colors. This is it. The grand, terrifying finale. You stand there, a Viking warrior, axe still clutched in hand, but the fight has left you. Not out of cowardice, but from the overwhelming, cosmic scale of the event. This isn't a foe to be battled, it's the turning of an age, the unraveling of creation itself. Your sagas spoke of gods falling, of the world submerging. Now, you witness it. The jungle, your temporary, terrifying home, is being torn apart by the very entity it harbored. It's like watching a mountain unmake itself, or a river decide to flow into the sky. A mainstream historical fact you might have learned, had you lived long enough to attend a lecture on mythology. Many ancient cosmologies, including the Norse, believed in a cyclical nature of existence, creation, destruction, and then renewal. You're currently in the destruction phase, and let's be honest, the renewal part seems a long way off. The feathered serpent, having completed its terrifying re-emergence, begins to coil, its immense body creating new valleys and mountains in the now shattered jungle. It is not moving with a hunter's swiftness, but with the slow, inexorable force of a glacier, carving a path of utter devastation. Trees that stood for centuries are uprooted and flung aside like brittle twigs. The very earth buckles and groans under its weight, sending constant, jarring tremors through the ground. The river, previously the serpent's birthplace, is now its plaything, waves the size of longhouses crashing over what remains of the banks, sweeping away everything in their path. Your crew, your band of brothers, are scattered. Some have fallen, unable to withstand the continuous tremors, swallowed by the churning mud. Others cling desperately to the few remaining standing trees, their faces masks of pure terror. Halfdan, you see him one last time, screaming a curse at the sky, his axe raised in a final, defiant gesture before a wave of mud and debris sweeps him away. Thorvald, the quiet navigator, simply closes his eyes, a look of grim acceptance on his face, as the ground beneath him gives way. You are alone. A sole survivor, for now, in a world that is dissolving around you. A quirky tidbit that might make you grimace, you'd think that after all the raiding and pillaging, a Viking would at least go out in a blaze of glory, sword in hand, facing down a recognizable foe. Instead, you're getting a front-row seat to an eco-apocalypse orchestrated by a giant, feathered snake. Talk about an anticlimax for a warrior's end. The serpent pauses its destructive march, its head once again rising to the heavens, its glowing eyes fixed on the expanding cracks in the sky. And then, it begins to ascend. Slowly, majestically, defying the laws of gravity, it rises, its vast coils shimmering, shedding water and earth as it climbs. It's not flying with wings, but rather, moving with an inherent power, pushing against the very air. As it ascends, the glowing fissures in the sky widen further, revealing not darkness, but an abyss of swirling, cosmic light, a vortex of stars and nebulae, a window to something beyond mortal comprehension. Historians still argue whether some ancient myths of sky serpents or dragons ascending to the heavens were inspired by rare celestial phenomena like comets or meteor showers. For you, it's not a debate, it's a terrifying, beautiful reality, as the feathered serpent merges with the cosmic chaos it has brought forth. As Kukulkan rises, you feel an immense suction, a powerful vacuum pulling at the air, at the ground, at everything around you. It's like the world itself is being drawn into the vortex, into the swirling light beyond the cracks in the sky. The ground beneath you crumbles, the muddy earth giving way, pulling you down. You grasp at roots, at what remains of the shattered trees, but your grip is failing. The roar of the serpent, the hum of the vortex, the crackling of the sky, it's a symphony of annihilation, a final, deafening crescendo. You look up one last time, seeing the massive form of the feathered serpent silhouetted against the swirling cosmic light. Its eyes, those ancient, intelligent orbs, seem to meet yours for a fleeting moment, not with malice, but with a profound, almost weary understanding. It is simply fulfilling its destiny, playing its part in the eternal cycle. This isn't just the end of a world, it's the convergence of two, a Viking Ragnarok played out in the heart of the Amazon, a testament to the terrifying interconnectedness of all things, even across impossible distances and vastly different beliefs. Your fingers slip. The ground gives way entirely, and you fall, not into the churning river, but into the abyssal maw of the vortex, into the swirling cosmic light, into the heart of a prophecy both alien and terrifyingly familiar. You close your eyes, the roar of the serpent and the hum of the universe echoing in your ears. This isn't the glorious death of a Viking warrior, but a unique, cosmic end, a final, impossible journey into the unknown. The last thing you feel is a sense of immense pressure, followed by a nothing. The light dims around you now, softening, as if filtered through a distant mist. The rumble of the serpent fades, replaced by a gentle, rhythmic hum, almost like a lullaby woven from ancient air. Your body feels heavy, no longer burdened by fear or the relentless jungle, but sinking into a profound stillness. The vibrant, terrifying imagery of the Amazon, of the towering serpent, begins to recede, colors softening, details blurring at the edges. You are drifting, no longer clinging to life, but simply floating, suspended in a warm, comforting void. The echoes of prophecy of Ragnarok and Kukulkan become distant whispers, losing their urgency, their sharp edges softening into the indistinct murmurs of a half-remembered dream. All the tension, all the struggle, melts away, leaving only a sense of boundless peace. The world, or what was left of it, is now far behind you, dissolved into the quiet hum of eternity. Let the weight lift from your shoulders, let the humid air, the ancient roars, and the impossible journey all fade into the comforting darkness. There is no more striving, no more fear, just the gentle, endless drift into a peaceful, dreamless sleep.